The other topic I want to talk about tonight, it's kind of what I was doing before. So what I talked about, so it's called, I don't know if you've heard of this concept of toxic positivity. It's also called spiritual bypassing in some circles. And it's the idea is when we use, hi kitty.
I
The idea is when we use concepts or ideas from spirituality in unhealthy ways. And so what I described earlier is an example of that. I was using my faith that everything works out exactly the way it should to repress my fear of the future. And so that's an example of how we have to be careful with spiritual practices, how um, they can be applied in unhealthy ways. I mean, uh, this can be happen with any of the topics we talk about, but um, and it's a very real thing. And uh, this people talk. There's a lot of people writing about this on Elephant Journal, where I'm very active right now, and because it can be used to propagate very unhealthy mindsets. I mean, especially for people that have a lot of repressed trauma, like real hardcore trauma. Sometimes taking a spiritual approach can just lead people to want to just totally ignore it, just try to act like they're healed, try to just tell themselves they're healed when sometimes there's a lot of um, emotional trauma that needs to be addressed by a professional. It needs to be worked through with a counselor or a licensed therapist. And so it's just something to be aware of as you walk the spiritual path and as you develop spiritual ideas and with regard to everything I'm talking about, that with everything in the spiritual path, it has to be applied in a balanced way, right? We can't, even with talking about detachment, like you were saying, Diane, detachment taken in the wrong way can just lead to dissociation from your life and hiding from your life and just ignoring problems. And that's never what we want to do. We never want to use the beautiful ideas from spirituality or from Eastern religions to cover over our emotions or just try to act like problems don't exist. So it's a fine line, it's a fine balance of believing everything will work out okay in the end versus being putting on the blinders and ignoring very real life circumstances. I think it'd be irresponsible for me to just pretend to just assume everything's going to be okay and spend money, you know, lavishly, um, just assuming it'll all be okay in the future. So it's a very fine balance, a tightrope that we have to walk in how we interpret and apply these spiritual teachings to our own lives. Any questions about that? Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Yeah, because yeah, it can be a tricky subject to navigate through our lives. How to react in a way that's healthy for us. It's not just how to get the most benefit from these ancient teachings that have a lot of very beneficial things to offer us, but they can also be applied in unhealthy ways if we're not careful.